Well, hello. All right, I hope you have your pieces all cut out that you want to make for your silly little creature. And what we're going to need today is I probably talked to you guys about needles and how we're going to get those and how we're going to put them away so that we don't lose needles, okay? Losing a needle means we are done with this project. So super important. Maybe don't bring your needle up to come and get thread when you need thread. Don't bring your needle up when you need to get scrap fabric. Always kind of keep it in the same place would be my recommendation, okay? So put it at your table spot, out in the open. Don't cover it, don't hide it so that someone, picks up a piece of paper and then it flies onto the floor. Put it in the same spot and be consistent, okay? Now that we have our needles, we have our nice sharp scissors. Those are up front, and please return them at the end of class. We are going to start attaching our parts today, okay? Now, when you go up to the front table, I have a lot of different colors of thread, and they are on these spools. This can get really messy like this if you let it get like that. And then I have to, if this gets all tangled, I'm going to have to throw that away. Okay, so please just find the end, or the tail we call it, and then unravel it a little bit. You don't have to do it a lot. And then measure a piece that's about the distance of your arm, maybe a little bit longer. And then I want you to cut it, okay? And there'll be scissors right next to this, this container of thread, so you don't have to walk around with your sewing scissors. Keep them at your table spot. And just use the ones that are up front, okay? Otherwise, this could get really dangerous with all of us walking around. Now, at one end, you need to put the needle, so there's two ends to the thread. One end is going to have a needle, and the other end is going to have a knot, okay? Now, to get it onto the needle, this is going to be a little bit tricky because the eye of the needle, that hole that's right here in your needle, that's called the eye. And this thread is pretty thick. So I'm gonna put a little tiny cup of water at your table. Dip the end of that thread into the water. It just keeps the fibers of the thread together, and then kind of smooth it with your finger so all the fibers go together. If you have, this piece has like a little bit of fuzz on the end. If you have a little bit of fuzz, trim it off so that the end is a really nice, just like blunt end of a thread, okay? Now, here's what I'm gonna do. The thread is nice and wet, the fibers are together, and I am simply going to just kind of push it and wiggle it on through. Once I see that a little bit has gone through, I'm gonna quickly take my other hand and pull it through to help finish it out, okay? Now, I'm gonna pull down a little bit like that. And then when I'm sewing, so that my needle, so I don't have to constantly re-thread this, when I'm sewing, you're gonna see that I use a technique where you kind of hold the needle and you also maybe have a finger or two down here, holding the thread on top of the eye of the needle so that when I'm pulling it, I'm not pulling the thread off because I don't wanna sit and thread a needle all day. I wanna get some sewing done. Now at the other end, I said you need a knot, so find the other end, and you're simply just going to kind of wrap it around your fingers, and then you made a little hole, crisscross, put the tail into the hole, and pull it tight. Now do it again. I like to make a double or a triple knot, because the knot you're going to see in a minute, and I like when the knots line up. Oh, I was off camera, but those two knots didn't line up. But watch, if I do a third knot, oh, those two lined up. Let me do another one. I'm gonna do a fourth. Nobody's gonna see these knots on the back, so if it turns into this big old knot, nobody sees it. Okay, so I am set. I have my thread at this end, my needle at this end. Now, my things are laid out where I want them, but I can only sew on one thing at a time, okay? So I'm gonna take the smile off of there, and I'm gonna take the eye off of there, and now I could sew this eye on, but this is a little bit tricky. I'll show you why. Now, take the back part of your fabric. You don't want to sew the eye through the back and the top layer of your stuffed animal, because then we can't stuff it. So take this back layer of your stuffed animal and put all of these things in your portfolio so that you have them, okay? You don't want to lose things today. Now, the eye, I told you, is a little bit tricky because it's 2 parts. So what I'm going to do first, you have to think in layers. I am going to sew this black part onto the white part of my eye. Then once those 2 pieces are attached, then I can sew it onto the green body. So watch what I do. I'm going to take my needle. This is the front of my eye. This is the back. I'm going to take my needle and I am going to poke from the back. Okay, so I went from the back to the top, and I'm going to pull that thread until it hits the knot. There's the knot on the back. The knot works as a stop sign. Okay, and now my thread is on the top, the front of my eye, and now I'm going to go a little distance away from where it came out, and I'm going to push it back in, and then I'm going to pull it tight until the thread is nice and tight, and I just made 1 stitch. Now my thread is in the back of the eye, so now I need to go from the back to the front, and I'm just going to stitch a couple of stitches around this black circle to attach it to the white. So I go a little distance away, push the needle in, pull it out. This is called the running stitch, and the running stitch is really great to add features on to your creature today. So now I'm going from the back to the top, or front of my eyeball, pulling the thread tight, and now my thread is in the back, and then I have to go from the back into the front, so I poke it through there. Okay, and now I'm just going to do 1 last stitch. Okay, and you want to end with your threads in the back. Okay, if you were done with the white thread, you could tie these 2 together, or another great way to finish off is go under one of the stitches that's close by, go under it like that, and then when you're pulling it tight, see, I'm pulling my thread really tight, but before you pull it all the way tight, put the needle right here through it, and now finish pulling it tight, and now you have a knot right here. So now you can cut it off and all your stitches won't come apart. Okay? So then I have that done, and now I can start to sew my eye, because I have this attached to this. Now I can sew my eye onto my creature. If I don't want to cut that thread off, because I'm like, well, I'm going to attach the eye with white, you can keep working. I don't have to cut that off if I don't want to. Maybe I'll just, oh, now I have to rethread my needle because I wasn't holding on to the thread and the eye of the needle. It's probably a good thing that happened, because it's probably going to happen to you guys. It's just, you have to have patience, and you might be rethreading a needle once in a while. Okay. Oh, a little bit went through. Pull it out. Ta-da, rethreaded. Now I'm going to put the eye where I want it on here. I want it right there. My thread is already attached to the eye, so I'm going to push it into the green fabric to help secure it onto there. Okay, now I'm just going to do the same thing like I did with the black circle onto the white eye. I'm going to come from the back, and I'm going to go around the edge of my white eye with the running stitch. Now my thread is on the front. I go a little ways away, push it in from the front, pull it tight, and I'm just going to keep on going back to front, front to back, and try to keep your stitches about the same length if you can. Okay, that will make your work look a little bit neater. But if that's difficult for you, don't worry about it. This is, so for a lot of you, your first time sewing. So just do your best. Okay, and then I'm gonna finish this eyeball. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other eye, and I'm gonna do the same thing with the mouth, okay? If you get done and you're like, wow, this is kind of boring, I have all these things sewn on and I want like polka dots on my creature, go to the scraps. You can still add more stuff to your work, okay? It's not too late. All right, once we sew these two pieces together though, like this, and we go around the edge, then it's too late to add stuff to like the front of your stuffed creature, okay? So do it now if you want to add things to your person.